None of this can be easy depending on how, neurodiverse or how 2E complicated your child might be. I'm not saying it's easy. It's not easy being a parent, period. So we can't sit here in judgment of what's easy or what's difficult. We can just say that, that we can do the best we can with what we have, our own abilities, our own gifts, our own strengths as parents, and how we nurture, like, just part of these conversations. Everybody that I talk to is a conscientious, hardworking parent that cares very deeply about their child. Okay. And from that truth, where do we go from there? So I'm pretty passionate about the fail forward perspective on giving our children a chance to develop those metacognitive skills, those executive function skills by given the chance to learn through their mistakes. That's really what fail forward means from my perspective, and how using the word failure sometimes represents a stigma, represents a negative, represents to our kiddos too a sense of limitation, a lack, and in that I'm not living up to my potential. But in the true trajectory of success, success is built on failure. And so anybody that's achieved much of anything meaningful in their life has probably achieved that through struggle and adversity and effective problem solving skills. So what does that mean in terms of parents? Well, it means we want to try to nurture that type of mindset within our children at a young age. And the younger they are, and the more we can instill those types of fail forward, learn from your mistakes, then the better we can really equip them with the emotional fortitude to see mistakes as learning opportunities, to see failure as feedback. And as parents, we have to have that we have to maybe check ourselves first in terms of what are we willing to let go of and provide those opportunities. So, and how do we continue to allow those opportunities to present themselves to our children in a meaningful way so that they are able to learn and grow? So classic example might be the middle schooler with homework, and how maybe the behind the scenes chronic support from parents can be somewhat not necessarily seen by the school system, and therefore their child looks like a rock star because every day they're showing up to school ready. But the truth is, mom's the rock star, dad's the rock star, because there's a lot of heavy lifting in the back end to allow that child to look ready every day, and which is fine. It's just not fine if you have to think to those moments and say, are we missing an opportunity to allow our middle schooler to and allow the teachers, the team, to develop a clear understanding of what the struggles are, and therefore to provide systemic support that might allow your child to be more. So those conversations come up a lot. And that's just one small example of failing forward that is a meaningful one, because those building blocks, those having our children face those challenges with the supports, not just of parents in the background, but from the school system, what can that help provide? And be empowering and skill developing. I did give you all somewhat of a homework assignment. I did throw out a few questions that that would be really helpful for every parent to have an answer to. The first question is, how do you see your child, or what is the ideal picture, ideal image that you paint of your child, and as you see them living out their ideal self? And that's a kind of a very emotional question, and it can a little heartfelt question. But what it does give us a chance to do is peel back, really step back 30,000 feet from the daily living of just being a mom or a dad, and just see through the lens of just maybe a clear picture and a heartfelt picture of what our true intentions are with our children, and how we really see them. And I think as we see them, in essence, maybe even from back to the day they were born, but how that type of vision can be grounding to us, right? Because it keeps us focused on a really empowering vision of how we see how we need to see our children, how we need to see these beings that have come into this world under our care, that will be here long after we're gone, and what that means. And so how we see them, how we visualize them, and how we write, and what we write down in terms of our own mission statement for our children can really shift our energy, especially if we might find ourselves stuck too much in negative patterns and prompt dependency patterns, or as our kids will say, the nagging patterns. And so the next phase of that question, if you've taken that challenge on, and even right now, if you have a notebook open, if you have a chance to just close the door and take advantage of this brief moment we have together, I would say do it. And for those that maybe are watching the recording, what is your mission statement for your children? What is your vision for your child? What is your heartfelt ideal image of who they are and who they're meant to be? And the second part to that question that might be helpful in answering the first is, what are their innate strengths? What are their innate abilities? What are their gifts? What are their amazing characteristics that make them them? And can you make that list of 20 plus characteristics, traits, strengths, and can you write those down and hold on to them? Not just intellectually, but emotionally. And can you build a profile of your child based on those first two questions? The answer isn't really can you, because you can. The answer is can I sit there long enough in that to believe it? And if I can I then start to shift really, because this can be helpful. This can be a helpful process because it can shift how I see my child in the struggles, right? In the moments when things aren't necessarily looking like they're aligned with how you see things. But what's so empowering about that is it allows us to really take I'm going to say a kind of maybe a God-centered perspective on our children, and realize that they're put on this planet to do amazing things, and our job is to be the best version of ourselves and helping them achieve that. It doesn't mean that we're there to do everything for them and be everything for them and solve all the problems, right? Because I don't think that's a real sustainable parenting plan. But it does mean that if we stay heartfelt in that truth around, if you believe in that truth of who they are, then maybe I can be a little bit more authentic with how I approach and how I connect, and how I meet them where they are. And none of this can be easy depending on how neurodiverse or how 2E complicated your child might be. I'm not saying it's easy. It's not easy being a parent, period. So we can't sit here in judgment of what's easy or what's difficult. We can just say that we can do the best we can with what we have, our own abilities, our own gifts, our own strengths as parents, and how we nurture, like just part of these conversations. Everybody that I talk to is a conscientious, hardworking parent that cares very deeply about their child. Okay. And from that truth, where do we go from there? So issues. Oh, no. Question 3. Sorry. Question 3 was lagging skills. Lagging skills comes from Ross Green, livesinthebalance.org. Excellent resource. He is, if most of you should know who he is at this point. If you have a rebel personality like child, if you have a kind of a child with some explosive kind of behaviors, he wrote a book called The Explosive Child. So that's how I'm using that term, and that was one of his his first books. But he talks about lagging skills being, what does my child struggle with that is really a skill that they just aren't available to use today, but they can with time and practice. And those lagging skills are skills that can be developed, right? In our work as executive function coaches, which is very much a cognitive-based disability, any skill can be learned over time, right? You have to apply some self-regulation type processes to that, and you have to apply certain levels of intrinsic and extrinsic motivation at time as well, right? To develop certain skills, but you can, right? We've proven as a society that, and as we've seen many successful stories of individuals that have accomplished tremendous feats and overcome tremendous obstacles. So what does that mean? So what are those lagging skills that come to mind? And if you want to delve into that deeper, go to that website, labsinthebalance.org, and there's actually this great PDF that allows you to really filter through all types of lagging skills on different levels. But you don't really need that. I would say go to question 4. Question 4 is really a question that says, what are the 5? If I had to pick 5 things, what are the 5 areas that I nag about the most? I say meaning as a parent. Right? What are the hot topics? And what about those topics do I take all of the responsibility for? And because I care, because I think about them all the time, and I'm always prompting them. My child's always hearing from me, do this, do that, do that. What are those 5? Just pick 5. And if you can, put them in that order of importance based on priorities. Now I'll say, what is a priority? A priority is something that matters the most. Okay, well, let me help you give you an operational definition of that. Not what matters the most to you per se, but which it can be one and the same, but in terms of developmental needs and developmental milestones, right? And so for most people, the first priority is health. Because if you're in, you can get the best way to check that is, if I'm sick, how useful am I? If I'm in my bed because I can't get up because I have the flu, what else can I get done? Not much. Health is the number 1 priority. I'm useless without a management plan for my health. So health is number 1. So think about whatever you're complaining about. School falls lower on it because you have really the health of things. Then you have family. Family is very important. It's a top priority, which is why so much of our work with parent coaching, and even the work we do with really complex neurodiverse kiddos, is working with families, working with parents to build the connection, because the family is so important. It's one of the top priorities, and without that, you don't have the long-term sustainable growth that's more effective with having a strong nucleus of a family unit. So, and then it comes school. School is just aligned with, okay, what are my strengths, interests, and how does it align with my future, and how do I build skills and career learning and vocation that matches those careers, so I could maybe find myself independent someday. Right, so that falls into 3, and someone would be like, "Oh, what about friends?" Well, sure, well, friends does fall into health. You need a couple good friends, right? Because that really checks those boxes. If you got more, great, but you need a couple in case one's not around. You have one other, right? So 2 friends is a good milestone for a lot of us, and social media might say otherwise, but that's another topic. So, and then you really hierarchy that those priorities and those areas that I nag about the most, and see if I can start developing a proactive plan to engage my child in the problem-solving process. You put them in the driver's seat and you help them work through these lagging skills that might be related to what I nag about, but it might not be. And how do I build a proactive plan? As busy parents, too busy working professionals, it's very difficult to be proactive. But if I can pick 5 things to be proactive about, and I'm always thinking proactively about the potential for my child to struggle in these areas, then I'm going to always forecast the potential to talk about and foreshadow conversations with my child about these potential hurdles, right? These potential issues, these hot topics. So if I can be proactive about it, then I can start really building interventions. That was kind of the 4 questions that I thought may really be helpful in framing out anything that are really great instant takeaways from this conversation, or at least from my me just talking, and how that can really start to build an instant plan of intervention, at least kind of having a roadmap for yourself around what might be some interesting topics. So if I were to create some awkward silence right now, would I find myself with some questions that people have in mind? I see some familiar names on the screen, which is cool. You might be in the middle of making dinner. So thanks for having me along. And or you are conscientiously listening with a notebook in front of you. Pretty cool. But maybe someone could take the lead and think through what might be what's on your mind.
Can you hear me?
I can. Hi, Jessica.
Hi. I just figured I mean, this is the first session I've joined, but thinking through these things, what I'm trying to work through personally with my son is just I get so frustrated and I see so many I do tend to go down the negative path of all the things that he's not doing and just need to remember the things and the good qualities that he does have because it's a real struggle and I just try to fight the frustration. Because I feel like I want him to be more of a success more than he wants himself to be a success because he doesn't fully see the picture at the end. So we're new to all this, and he's just started working with you guys. So
yeah. And that's a really good point, Jessica. It goes back to my first question. If he is inherently on a path that he will find his success, right? If you believe that, are we less concerned? Are you less concerned? Because that's
if he is, that's a question I should be asking myself. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, because I mean, it's hard to, and I'm going to admit, being as a parent, a conscious parent as well, like we're always hyper focused on the signs and how those signs can paint a negative future picture. Right?
And you worry about them. Yeah.
We do. We sit there at night and we talk about our worries. And sometimes that can be productive. Sometimes that can be productive because it can help foster effective interventions. Sometimes, and other times, it's not helpful at all. Right? So when we go to bed at night, how do we want to feel about our children? Right? Is a really big question. It has to go with our own life as well. How do we want to feel about as being parents? But and I think it's a daily challenge. And so sometimes I think we put the burden on ourselves and we put all the weight and pressure on ourselves as parents. And I think that's not fair. And it's really not. I think what we can start to do as we maybe think about exactly what I want to focus on, Jessica, and I loved your question because I think your question resonates with so many parents here. It's what one specific challenge can we target? What one specific lagging skill can we help our child develop? Start there. Keeping in mind that there is no success plan for any of our children if all we focus on are the weaknesses in our kids. There is none. Right? You talk to any successful adult with ADHD or any neurodiverse profile, it will always be based on their focused attention and effort to what they were good at. Repeated over time. Right? And so what would that mean to us? Well, we get hyper-focused, hyper-vigilant on doing whatever we can to continue to build strengths, celebrate failure, and move our children, continuously moving them to exploit strengths and interests. And have faith that if we can't see it today, it will come. A lot of parents might chat with me about school and homework and stuff like that. And what tends to be refreshing is when we pull back, when we put that aside for a minute, we focus on conversations around lagging skills related to the ADLs of life. The ADLs of life, some of those is the activities of daily living. And ADLs is a term used in the vocational space. Any SLPs or OTs in the room know what I mean. But it's what we all need to be exceptionally good at in order just to live a meaningful life, is managing the activities of daily living. And it can be as simple as consistently brushing your teeth. It can be as complicated as grocery shopping, which, for anybody that can relate to that, it can be one of the most complicated and executive function riddled exercises of the week, is getting the grocery store and getting things ready for the week. Some parents, it's like so debilitating that these services that deliver is like a godsend to those people, right? So interventions to solve those problems, but the ADLs of life. And so when you think about the priorities of what I should focus my attention on, there's been times when parents help their high school kid manage their medication, and then they expect that their child's ready for college. Well, if you can't manage your medication on your own, then you're putting the cart before the horse, because you need a highly independent, managed healthcare plan to be able to handle the challenges of higher ed. I'm not saying something that we all just can't nod our heads and agree with. It's just oh my goodness! What a side note. I just got off the soccer field, everyone. Like, literally, I'm running home at 10 minutes before this meeting, and so I'm right with you. And there's just business, like running into the house. You get changed, and I run to this, and it starts me. But thinking back to just 30 minutes ago, I had an intervention with my 12 8-year-olds. Had them all come around. And guess what my intervention, it had nothing to do with soccer. It had everything to do with ADLs of life. And can anybody in the room, guess what I was so mad at? And I wasn't mad. I was coach mad, but I was very upset with my independent 8-year-olds that are here to learn soccer, right? I was concerned about a very important ADL skill that 5 of them could not do. There's a parent coach in the audience that's going to know this. Any guesses?
Tie their shoe.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Tie their shoes. Oh my goodness. There was 5 of them that had their shoes untied trying to play soccer, and I pulled one of them aside. Can you tie your shoe? No. The other one, can you tie your shoe? No. The other one, can you tie your shoe? No. And so I had this big intervention with the whole group. I said, next time you come to practice, you all need to know how to tie your shoes. So I said, guess who does not want to tie your shoe? I don't want to tie your shoe. So you need to come here and tie your shoe, or you'll be sitting on the sidelines during practice tying your shoes. And they're all like looking at me like deer in headlights. ADLs, the activities of daily living. And I don't know. That's the teacher in me. It's the coach in me, and and I just got all fired up. And they were. So I'm not sure. Am I here for some parents on that one? So Marie, yes, you had a question, or probably a separate question, because my tangent about shoes may not resonate with everybody here.
No, I was just trying to get you to repeat the very beginning part of that. I just missed it with the soccer practice, but I totally identify with the yes, tie your shoes, and yes, comments about yes, brush your teeth. Like, these are the things that are our sources of concern or struggle. Is like, again, the daily functions, like tie your shoes, brush your teeth. Like put your stuff in your bag. Like it's those daily things. Like, okay, you may be brilliant and you can do these ridiculous algebraic equations and scientific experiments, but you need to function as a human being. So,
yeah. And the best. So pick a topic, right? So for example, if I were to take morning routines, and that was something I put out there as a topic, I love talking about morning routines because it can be such a target area of concern. But for example, if if you know what the problems are, then what we want to try to help our kids do is to be thinking about their own thinking as much as possible whenever they're in transitions. What does that sound like? Well, it sounds like, we'll say, Marie, I'm going to pick on you for a second, but it sounds like Marie turning to her child and saying, it's 7:30, what should be on your mind?
Right.
Right?
I'll talk back to you if this is okay with everybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So like we will, we have timers going off constantly, and it is for myself, I will admit, to like my job is to keep everyone on track.
Yeah.
But to my son, it becomes nagging, and I'm trying to help bridge the gap. He's trying, and he's making progress, but he has a hard time with the concept of time itself. Like 5 minutes is it's like a big fog to him. Like the difference between 5 minutes and 30 minutes is very intangible to him. So I was on.
How old is he, Marie?
Yeah. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
What's the age?
13, almost 14.
Okay.
So I know there are programs and things we're trying to help make the invisibility of time visible and things like that. But it's like my son doesn't care if he goes to school with his teeth brushed or not, Yeah. And he knows that if he's running behind in getting ready in the morning, that I will make sure that he eats before he goes to school. So I will throw his oatmeal in a thermos and make him eat it on the way to school if we get downstairs late and he doesn't get there on time for breakfast. So it's these kind of things that are our biggest frustrations, but he will go on and he's National Junior Honor Society. He is exemplary behavior and ambitious student from his teachers. Like he does all these other things that are so wonderful. And it's like, how do you counterbalance? Like, okay, you just need to be a functioning person too.
Yeah. I love the complexity there, Maria. I think there's the Einstein-like genius in so many of our kids that has. Have you ever seen? There's a meme that's been thrown around that shows Einstein's desk. Right. You may have it, but I think there's so that's where there's a parts of our kids that that attention over time is going to be really helpful in building certain skills, right? So the attention to time awareness, right? We go from time blindness to just improving awareness of time. Now you got to start from where he is, and it has to be meaningful and relevant to his life to help build a stronger relationship. Okay. None of that's going to come quickly, but eventually those cognitive processes might stick in a meaningful way. And luckily technology is so much easier for a lot of people with time blindness to manage effectively. But I think for a parent like yourself, it continues to be, here's these strengths and how much time do I want to spend, and what is the value or the return on my time and effort focusing on certain deficits that I may not need to focus on right now. I might just support it. Like taking food, making sure he has food running out the door. Okay. I'm willing to play that role because getting into school, whatever, the justification's there. And you know what? Eventually he'll figure out how to get food in his body, because right now he's 13, 14, and someday he'll be 18. And eventually, we'll tackle that challenge at another time. For right now, these are the 4 or 5 targeted interventions or strategies I want my child to develop. Right? What? Because you want him building independence, you want him building problem-solving skills, you want him failing forward in the areas that matter most. Why? Well, because from a 14-year-old to a 16-year-old, I have to continue to develop the independence, because if I fall behind, there's an emotional cost to that, especially if I'm intelligent enough to see how I compare against my peers. Right now, I may not care brushing my teeth, but I need to know how to care, because I sit in the dentist chair and I understand the consequence of not brushing my teeth, whatever. So you do visits, whatever you need to do there. But I think we pick our battles, and I think we need to, because we have this relationship with a kiddo that we love and adore that has these gifts. And if I don't take that approach, I'm going to find myself battling everything, and I'm not going to really find myself truly enjoying who my child is. That's the delicateness here. And if I have faith, and if I trust that over time, my child will also find his place on this planet, and that's where I want to be. I don't want to be with if. I say I know my child will find his place on this planet, because I'm not going to be here forever. And there's a lot of supports and services out there, and my child has some wonderful gifts, and we're going to continue to build on those. And these deficits, we'll continue to build interventions around, supports around, because that's what he needs, or that's what he's come to the table and also talked about, right? But you don't want to keep nagging a middle schooler or high schooler, right? You want the interventions to be their own, and because they're failing forward. It's your problem, not mine. 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 And that can be as real as brushing your teeth, but as a parent, no, we don't want to see our kids with yellow teeth and having to get, cavities, 18 cavities at the age of 18. So there's certain kind of non-negotiables. What's a non-negotiable? You talk to your kids about a non-negotiable. Non-negotiable is something that I will not negotiate with. It is what it is. And these are the standards. These are expectations. These are our expectations as a family. These 6 things, these 10 things. Read this every morning. These are our expectations. Do you have any questions? Do you have any problem with that? No. Okay, I have a problem with this. Okay, let's talk about it. That helps with self-regulation, helps with decision-making, because your vision your expectations are clear in their mind. Put it on paper, put a picture with it, hang it up in 12 different places. And then you put their schedule as a representation of your expectations. Like the morning routines are a conversation you have with your kids. But these expectations, there's 3 children in the family. I can't be walking you through the morning. Let's talk about what your morning routine is. Let's write it down. Let's timestamp it. This happens, this happens, this. And let's celebrate your success in following those morning routines, those morning expectations. Yes, as a win. You know what I really liked about this morning? I really liked how you got this, and this done. The truth was, it was a shit show and everything fell apart. But you're not going to say that. Because I really like you got this, and this done. That's hard to do. But I'm just saying, like, the alternative is you focus on the negative. And I resent my kid for ruining the morning or whatever. You don't realize you got this, and this done. I know we have some things we still need to work on. That's okay. We'll restart tomorrow. How do you think about that? Cool. Let's restart tomorrow. Let's review what it looks like. Let's walk through it. Sunday night, let's walk through the morning, what the morning looks like. I can do that again, Dad. Well, let's race. Let's see how quickly we can do it. On your mark, get set, go. Just little snares, but none of it's easy when you're dealing with the complexity of dynamic families. But it can be if I sit down and think proactively around what I'm trying to do, and what areas do I want to target that are most important. What do you think your son's going to do, Marie, regarding a license? Will he want one?
Did you say? Are you talking to me? What about?
Yeah. Well, you mentioned your son, and then I had a question regarding kind of the next level of his life as he becomes 16. It would be, oh, okay, well, he might at that point, if he's not really that interested in his brushing his teeth still, which I imagine may not be the case as he grows up, but if the next milestone would be like a license, right? It'd be like having to get that.
Thank you. Thankfully, he's like, he understands that he has certain challenges, and I think we're going to delay that. But please excuse me if I'm going off tangent here. I thought Jay had a question for you, and I don't know if you got to see his hand up. I don't know if he's still on here. Jay York.
Oh, so they did have her hand up. Oh, there you are.
Hi. Thank you. Thanks,
Hi.
Marie. Appreciate it. Yeah, I just wanted to say, like, when it comes to those ADLs, right, and like being that source of support and helping them think through, okay, what are you supposed to be doing in this moment? What are you supposed to be doing in this moment? So my son will be able to rattle off, yes, I know I'm supposed to do this, 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 and this. But when it comes to the act of doing it, it doesn't happen unless I prompt him to do it. So we'll go through like the Sunday night before, hey, let's talk about, what are we doing tomorrow? Or when you get home from school, what's the plan for doing your homework and all that? Like, talk me through it. He'll list it off. Yeah, I'm gonna go home and do my homework, and I'm gonna eat a snack, and I'm gonna do this, this. Then he gets home and he's like fiddling with something in his room, right? Or like doing something. I'll say, hey, you're supposed to be doing your homework. Oh, okay, yeah, I forgot. Or something like that. It's always an I forgot. So how do we kind of like offer that support, but then like not let it be a crutch to they're overly dependent on, oh, mom's gonna remind me to do these things.
Yeah, it's a great question, and it does kind of lend itself to maybe I have to ask you. Maybe it's like a question around what is the entry point into that sequence? Right, what's the first thing? And if he's walking through the scenarios, right, what's the first thing that he needs to get done, and how does that start to and does that one first thing require prompting? And then as he transitions from the first thing to the second thing, does that second thing require prompting? So give me examples. Just like a morning routine. Is that a good example?
Yeah, we can do a morning routine, right? So he has an alarm on his phone. And it's very hit or miss. Sometimes he'll wake up and get up and start the day, and sometimes he'll hit the snooze button, or the snooze button will go magically on its own. He'll say he didn't hit the snooze button, but somehow the snooze is on.
No.
And yeah, I'll get him up and he'll get up, but then it's like he may do one or two tasks. He may get up, he may brush his teeth, start doing his hair, things like that. But then it's like it falls off and then he needs to get back on track. Like 10, 20 minutes goes by, like, hey, you're supposed to be eating breakfast right now. Why are you still in the bathroom? So it's like he may, and it all depends, right? He may start off well and then it just kind of drops off. Or sometimes, he has trouble starting and then he'll get back on track and he'll go through the rest of the task. It's very hit or miss sometimes, but he always kind of like relies on the prompts. Like if I didn't say anything the whole morning, he would not get out of the house.
Yeah. So there's a cool question to ask that you could try and see what happens. And it's a metacognitive question, and it sounds like this. So you go to your son and you say, "What's up?" And you might need to add additional statement to add context, which might be, "What's up? You look stuck. You look at your watch, whatever, and you're like, it's 6:30." You just sit there in the awkward silence of having him figure out what mom's talking about. Now that's a step back from prompting. What you want to do is, if I could ask questions that initiate his own thinking about himself, his own identity, his future self, then it allows you to start phasing out the supports over time, right? And so you start asking these open-ended questions. You look stuck. What do you mean? Well, you look stuck because you're doing something that isn't aligned with what you had said you plan to do.
I like that. Yeah,
right?
I like that.
These are, so I'm not in the weeds, but as you can kind of hear, it's me being I'm prompting, but I'm not prompting on what to do. I'm prompting on thinking about who I'm trying to be, right? Because he's already walked through his ideal self, like who I'm trying to be, an ideal representation of who I want to be as it relates to the morning. I want to get this done. And I like the way you described it, Jay. You used I statements and you used it in the present tense. I am walking downstairs. And in that, and then maybe if you're not, you should do that. I am walking downstairs. What time is it? 6:30 in the morning. Great. What are you doing? I'm walking over. How many steps are in the stairs? Okay. Let's role play this. Let's walk it together. Okay. What are you doing next? Okay. This, I'm doing this. I'm going over here. And sometimes having a visual representation can be very powerful for a lot of kids because it starts to anchor the nonverbal and verbal relationship in the cognitive functioning, so that it helps to anchor emotionality with decision making. But not every kid needs that, but some can benefit from it. However, if he's just playing you, for example, meaning he's just letting you just kind of play your role as the prompter, right? That means he's got you well trained. Not just kidding, but you're playing a role that he is okay with you playing, which might be developmentally inappropriate. But he doesn't care. He just has mom who he loves, and mom loves him, and he's getting prompts throughout his day, right? However, you're tired of it, and I'm going to start asking these open-ended questions, these cognitive-based questions. To keep you honest about it, just keep yourself in mind with what's up. What's up? You look stuck. Now, you may need to add some context, but keep that frame of reference. That's another Ross Green example. It helps us. This is all about parenting. It helps us to stay out of the prompting. It gives us a language to allow us to stop the prompting, right? So because it's really about us developing our own strategies to start helping our kids. So what is that strategy? It's an excellent one. It's really short and simple. And then I'm going to have to get better at, because if you just say, what's up? He's going to be like, what are you talking about? Which is great, because you want him to start thinking about what you're talking about, right? You want him to be like, what's wrong? She's lost her mind. But no, he's going to get used to it over time. Next 100 times, what's up? You look lost. Because he's over in the kitchen and he's supposed to be out the door in the car waiting to leave. Right. Right. You just start to have fun with it and play with it. But what you're doing is you're constantly prompting him to think about. And now if you have clocks around, be like, what time is it? Or you ask him, yeah, what are you thinking about? What's on your mind? What's next? Right. And so you're just always thinking about his own future in relation to open-ended question. It's really powerful, and it really stops with the nagging. It stops with the complaining, because you're just asking open-ended questions that are very non-judgmental and very engaging and very almost development appropriate to whatever the age of the child is. It also helps.
And I feel like that way it's like less stressful for him as well. Because then when I start, hey, you need to do this, 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 and this, then he gets overwhelmed, and then he starts to shut down. Like, I can't do all these things.
Yeah, and when he says, "What's next?" you say, "Okay, cool. What's on your mind after that?" I love the on your mind thing, because what it does is it trains the brain to be thinking about this idea that there's things on my mind that I can hold there. I don't have to let those thoughts go and be off like a squirrel up the next tree, right? I could be present in the conversation, in the moment, thinking about what's next. And what time does that happen? Oh, yeah, I think that happens around 7. Okay, and what might be a problem as you transition between those two things? Oh, I tend to. Okay, what's your strategy to help you get out, avoid that problem? I mean, this is just brushing your teeth we're talking about, like whatever. It could be as simple as like a simple ADL, but helping him forecast problems that are his own, even though we nag about, they're his problems. He has to own them. What is the potential problem that keeps coming up as you transition into that next step? Oh yeah, that, then you start, and he talks about it and he owns it. He's like, oh yeah, what's the strategy you came up with that we talked about last time? Oh, I was going to try to. Okay, cool. Let's talk about how that goes. Good luck. I'm going to go downstairs and feed the dog. Right. So. But that's but doing that requires a real conscientious decision that I'm going to try to build these. I'm going to try to intervene on these behaviors at this level, and don't get bogged down with the whole rest of the day. Right? Train yourself as a parent to be that deliberate in certain areas, and then just focus that until you feel like you've really got a good rhythm with your kid. Lisa, your hand is up. Is this something to chime in on these topics? Because you don't have to raise your hand. You can just jump in.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can. Thanks for joining.
Thank you so much for having me. This is my first time here, so thank you so much. This has been a great
Oh.
resource. I have a little bit of a mixed issue with this, only because my 9-year-old was recently diagnosed with slow cognitive delay. So she's very much aware that she can't keep up mentally and physically with her peers.
Mm.
So she's in this sort of heightened sense of awareness all the time of like, I have to get this done, I have to get that done, I have to, like this internal checklist of like, I have to get all of these executive functioning things that she needs to get done. And if she forgets, let's say, one thing, she is just so very hard on herself. And it starts this level of stress that's not conducive to learning. I mean, it kind of defeats the purpose of having some things in place. So I guess my question would be, how can I support her without nagging and breaking that cycle?
Mm.
Because I want to support her. Oftentimes I'm like, okay, let's slow down. Let's think about these things. Let's be aware. But, let's say she forgets one homework paper. The whole next day, she's hyper focused on how she forgot that one piece of paper. And so, it cycles down and it impacts the entirety of her day. So how can I sort of alleviate some of that or empower her to alleviate some of that stress and anxiety, and knowing that, she may not, I always say, you may not be able to do as fast as someone else, but you can do it. So let's slow down. Let's take our time. But again, I want to be able to support her as best I can.
Yeah, I love her. She sounds awesome. Seriously. So here's what's awesome, Lisa, and I think you have a daughter that's hardwired to super conscientious, super motivated, super self-aware, or super aware of how she's different from her peers. So that makes her work harder, and the anxiety is the byproduct of that. Because here she is with these standards that are way up here. She has these cognitive processes and these lagging skills and these challenges that are making that gap super overwhelming. Am I painting that accurately, or do I need to reframe that?
No, that's a perfect picture of
Okay.
her. And
So
she just turned 9. I mean, she's
no, I totally love
Yeah.
it. What you want to try to capture in that is you don't want to lose. You don't want her to lose, or to let go of that relationship that she has between that drive, that feeling that this is how I want to be. For her, it's going to be really hearing as much as possible, right? You'll get there. You'll get there. Yeah, I really love the fact that you continue to never give up. I love the fact that these challenges totally are that when you make a mistake, you totally can't stop thinking about it because you care so much. You care so much about being the type of student you want to be. Love it. Love it. And it's so hard. It's overwhelming for you, but you'll get used to it. You'll learn how to work through that. You'll learn how to work with those moments when you're frustrated. You'll continue to get better. Now, just acknowledging those truths with her, you might sense that her energy just starts. You might sense her letting up a little bit, right? But staying with her in that kind of gap of, this is the man, you have this drive, this personality to just really focus on these areas that so many kids wouldn't be able to do because they'd be too afraid, or they would be too concerned, or they would feel like they couldn't do it. But here you are going after it and trying and trying and trying and trying and not giving up and trying again and then failing. You seem to be the best person. I love that you fail forward. You know what fail forward means? It means you go out there and even when you make a mistake, you don't give up on that mistake. Yeah, you think a lot about it and it causes anxiety, but that's okay. That's okay. You'll learn how to adapt to that. I don't know. It's meeting her where she is, right? And then that's my gut reaction with that, Lisa. And I could be completely wrong, but those types of children, that type of profile, can climb mountains if you continue to harness that goal-directed persistence. Now, at the other side of that, there's this part of her that doesn't want to be who she is. Right. And she needs to nurture that this is who I am. Right. And I can't be ashamed of it. And I have to feel empowered to advocate for my learning style. And she'll learn how to do that because she's going to continue to focus on reaching that milestone. And you're going to start teaching her the strategy to reach that milestone by using advocacy strategies, right? And how to really start to use supports around her to continue to move towards those skills and grow, fail forward, grow and learn. I noticed you keep on, this is a hard day for you, but look at you, you're getting up and or even the next day. Yesterday was a hard day for you. We talked about it, but look at you getting up and ready to start your day all over again. It takes a really special person to do that. You're just planting seeds, right? And so when high school comes around and she's continuing to demonstrate the same type of drive, you've nurtured it in a way where it's been strength-based, right? And it's been empowering. And that's where your daughter will start to really use those to really start to continue to build an ideal profile of who she wants to be with those continued strengths, right? The managing the stress. Yeah, you could do it. You're 9. This is super overwhelming, but you'll get there. You'll get there. Just don't give up. And I'm here to help.
Thank you so much. Can I ask one more question too? Because she had a lot of supports last year within the classroom. This year, she's always been academically ahead of her peers, socially a little behind. So what they've done is they've eliminated some of the in-classroom supports. And what I'm finding is that she is just so stressed. So I'm torn because I want her to learn that, that she can be empowered. She can do it. I also don't want her to think less of herself, because I know that she's very aware that she's different. So any tips and suggestions on how I can find that balance even as a parent? Because I'm very torn.
It's a great point. There's good stress and bad stress, right? Stress drives us. There's stress that drives us forward, causes enough anxiety for us to act, initiate, plan, organize, right? Really get into our executive functions. And then there's negative stress, bad stress, which is what can shut us down and make it hard for us to make decisions. And so for our neurodiverse kiddos, our cognitively challenged kid, whatever, however the profile, doesn't really matter. We can only handle so much, so much negative or pressure before it's too much. And for your daughter, the pace of learning will always be too fast. Always be too fast. Right? So there needs to be a constant opportunity for recycling, reteaching, relearning, reinforcing all the time. And the team needs to recognize that if that pace isn't appropriate for her learning style, then there needs to be a coming together of the team to revisit the pace. right? And you can't say what that answer is, right? Because sometimes you have tutoring outside of school to help support it. Sometimes there's learning center interventions in the school to help support it, right? But if a kiddo is receiving too many services that are impacting academic reteaching, then we have to go back and say, okay, what services are too much that we need to pull back to allow for reteaching opportunities to keep up with the learning. And I say that because if she wants to go home and do the homework, but she doesn't know how to do the homework, that's a huge issue for her growth and independence. She's going to notice. She's going to show up to school without her homework done. Huge red flag. Because she's conscientious. She sees the difference. She's like, I want to be like everybody else. Help me be successful in these areas that allow me to represent myself like my peers. Maybe it's only 5 problems and everyone else had 20. That may not be a big deal. Because we can mask that. But when she gets a chance to speak, give out the answers and go to the board and write something down, awesome. Right. So yeah, it gets complicated as we think about interventions at that level. But I bring the team together and make sure you have some real powerful advocates in the school or supports in the school that are as passionate about your daughter as you are. And they're there. But once you bridge those gaps of the relationship communication, they feel like you're when a teacher starts to really feel like the parent is part of the team, meaning like they're really collaborative in their authentic communication around the challenges, it expands the capacity for effective interventions when teachers feel that. And we can't underestimate that at all. As a teacher of 20 plus years, those parents, I have parents that I could talk about today that I've just really had authentic relationships with, because there was no hiding back of the truth around what the challenges of the concerns were, what our goals were, and what the issues were, and how everybody's trying their best. But here's what our concerns are, and how we're going to come together and solve these problems together as a team. And that's empowering. But I want to get to Marie, Lisa. That's okay if we pause. I'm over time.
Yeah, no, thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm here for you any other time, even after this. Just reach out.
Thank you.
Marie, you had your hand up. I don't want to ignore that.
No, actually, I was just listening to Lisa and empathizing, because I felt like, can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Does she have an advocate? Does she have an academic support class? Does she have an IEP in place? Like, these are the things that I think a lot of us rely on and can make or break a person at that age, of like figuring out, like, am I going to be okay? And am I going to do well? Or am I going to give up and just like roll over on the sidelines?
Right.
When my son was 9, that was a critical time for us. And I'm so thankful for the person who was our special education teacher and our IEP coordinator at that point in time, because I really, really think that things could have gone one way or another. So I'm hoping, Lisa, that you have one of those people to work with you and to help you and your child with this, because kids that learn differently or can't, like, do their best in the same environment as everyone else shouldn't be put out to pasture. And if there's something that other people can help you with either getting the right things in your IEP, or connecting with the right people, or expressing things in the right language to get the support that your child needs, I would think that this is kind of the community that's trying to support that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really well said. Even in my mind, my assumption was that there was a IEP in place, but my goodness, but maybe that's a wrong assumption. But I think having children, and a conscientious teacher, but Lisa, I think in terms of this might even lend itself. I'm always thinking next topics and ideas, and so Maria, I even loved your risk taking, just to share out your thoughts and empowering statement, or even what a format could be next time if we had some I'd even bring on an advocate to just become a sounding board of questions and concerns. That'd be pretty cool. We have a great relationship with some really amazing advocates that are doing some really amazing work, and they would have no issues to giving back in a way in these types of forums. So that might be something to do next time if we move forward with these types of formats. But Serena, you got your hand up.
Oh, there we go. Can you hear me? It's Wendy. I think my daughter's thing is on here, but I loved everyone's questions. Really, interesting and connective. My question was a little bit we were talking about before about like sort of the basic meds and brushing their teeth without the constant nagging and reminders, besides obviously the natural consequences of kind of getting cavities, any suggestions? And then Jessica actually had a question talking about with, was it Jessica? Oh yeah, about the electronics and when, you can't take the laptop away because their homework is on the laptop, and just any suggestions for, those kinds of things to sort of take yourself out of it. But like, how do you kind of let them fail forward? And I don't know if it's simply the natural consequences or some other thing. I don't know if I'm being clear.
No, you are, Wendy, and I think your questions are great. And as you know, there's just no black and white answer. It's a little bit around what are the driving motivators in those situations. Sometimes the distractions are so dopamine rich and powerful that they override all logic.
Mm-hmm.
And with our neurodiverse kiddos with ADHD, it's magnified by 100 in terms of emotional magnitude, transitioning off of those preferred dopamine-rich devices onto far less rewarding, less stimulating tasks. And I find myself dealing with it all day long. And the best strategy with young adults is the ongoing conversation, the ongoing connection and conversation around how's it going and what are you doing to find balance between your relationship with technology and in the life you're trying to live. And in that conversation, if it can be honest and authentic, there might actually be, okay, what help do you need from me? Because I see you struggling in these areas of A, B, and C. We've talked about these interventions, these strategies to address these ongoing concerns, but I see you still struggling. And when you keep the problem in your child's lap, it allows you to be, the conversation is less judgmental, less confrontational, less emotional, and it becomes far more pragmatic and supportive, right? And so when you see those situations and you're like, what's up? I noticed what time it is, and I remember us having a conversation about some other things you were hoping to get done by now.
Mm-hmm.
What's going on? You want to talk about it? Or, right, so those are real open-ended kind of unemotional, undirective kind of moments. But if I have 100 of those, will it lend itself to the opportunity to brainstorm intervention solutions? We spend so much work as coaches in the problem-solving process. What's the problem? First of all, what's my goal? What's my intention? What am I trying to get done? What problems are getting in the way? And another word for problems is barriers. What barriers are getting in the way? And what strategies or solutions am I willing to implement, use, or try to overcome those barriers and strategies? what's the intention, what's the barrier, and what's the strategy? What's the intention, what's my goal, what's the barrier, what's the strategy? This is the cognitive process. And if I'm constantly thinking about who I'm trying to be, then I can then analyze, because who I'm trying to be is my intention. I can continue to analyze the roadblocks and the setbacks or the issues, the problems that keep showing up. And if I'm honest about all that, then I can also start to learn how to build interventions and strategies. But all of that requires interworking of other executive functions in order to pull off. So if I can stay with my child in their frontal lobe and keep them in the driver's seat in those real life situations, which has to do with screen time, which they'll have to deal with the rest of their life, can I build them up to see their way through these complex challenges? And if they need to advocate, can I get to the point where they're owning the advocacy and supports needed to help them regulate? Because it can be an addiction. It's hard to recognize it. They call it an abuse, but it can be so addicting because of its an emotional connection that it's really hard for our kiddos to stop thinking about it and stop wanting to interact with it. It's all consuming. And so it requires real thoughtful and deliberate conversations, especially with their teenagers, on the strategies. And then some kids need a detox. You have to unplug from everything for a while. Sometimes you can't do it during the school year because they need laptops, but you can try with other things. No screen, no video games during the week. Well, it's hard to do when they need the laptop to do work. But you create the boundaries and you keep the conversation open around when you get stuck, because you've talked about their goals, they've talked about their goals, what they want to achieve. But in the interest of time, we've just crushed it. I really appreciate you guys hanging out for so long. It's 7:45, so we're 15 minutes over my time. So as an executive function coach, that's just outlandish. But this is great. I really appreciate it, and I'm happy to do more of these. If I were to send one out for next month, what would be some possible themes? I love the idea of bringing an advocate, and even from Lisa's perspective, really having conversations that might be empowering to parents that are looking for specific help related to those skill development in the classroom, in the schools. But obviously, that requires a certain level of expertise. But an advocate, the right advocate, can be very helpful in a conversation like this, and I would love to explore that. So maybe that's a possibility for one of these meetings, and even next month. We can do it next month. Does that sound good? So thank you all for your time. I appreciate you, and I appreciate you sacrificing your evening to hang out. And if there's any other questions, anything else I can do for you, please feel free to reach out. You all know how to find me. Take care.